Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. And I'd ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Start with Mayor Pro Tem Olsman.
Present.
Commissioner Rozelle.
Present.
Commissioner Jenks.
Present.
Commissioner Elder.
Present.
Mayor Paul, present. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications. I don't believe we had any communications this evening. So moving on to elected officials. We have a microphone over here at the table. We have our county commissioner here with us this evening. If you can remove your mask when you're speaking so the audience can hear you. How you doing, Charlie?
Good. Thank you for stalling while I walked up from the parking lot. Sorry for being late. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Cavell, our County Commissioner. I just want to give you a quick update from the county. So first, I'm going to talk about what we've done in the past week and then transition into a couple of things we're working on in the near term. So first, in the last week, at the full board meeting, the County Commission created the Office of Indigent Defense Services. So this is a big step forward in criminal justice reform for the county. Second, Oakland County also put $2.4 million aside and then created a new program championed by our County Commissioner to create water and sewer infrastructure planning opportunities. So Huntington Woods, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you more about how we can get you some of this $2.4 million for water sewer infrastructure planning. So that's what we've done. What we're in the midst of right now and looking forward to is coming up in the next couple weeks, the Healthy Aging Subcommittee of the County Commission will come out with this big 69-page report that has 65 recommendations about how to improve the quality of life for seniors in Oakland County. And as you all know, hopefully, Oakland County is one of the fastest aging places in Michigan, which is one of the fastest aging states in the country. So us getting our arms around this quickly and urgently is something that we're very conscious of and excited to put forward some action steps towards. And another thing that we're going to be doing in the near future is thinking about how to spend this ARP money, part of this $1.9 trillion that came from the federal government. Huntington Woods got $600-some thousand. Oakland County got $240+ million to figure out what to do. So we're going to be putting forward towards the end of this year, Q1 next year, transformational housing investment, child care investment, and hopefully distressed communities fund, or a way to work on infrastructure and leverage dollars to help with local communities that have infrastructure needs. So I would love your input on any of those things in the meantime. But that's the long and the short of it. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Mayor? I was going to say, Commissioner Cavell, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate all the advocacy you're doing on behalf of our community, and we definitely are interested, I think, speaking for the rest of the commission and the water and sewer planning fund, so I think our city manager hopefully can reach out, and we're in the midst of a lot of infrastructure replacement right now, and it would definitely come in handy. So thank you for all your work. Appreciate you, yeah.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay. All right. Under public participation, sir.
Yeah, I can give you my card too. Yeah. Okay.
Simple question. The executive give sustainability
All right. Okay, moving on. We have a couple proclamations this evening. First one is a proclamation of the City of Huntington Woods recognizing Detroit Zoo Director Ron Kagan. As many of you have heard, Ron has announced his retirement. And the Detroit Zoo and the City of Huntington Woods has certainly had a very good relationship over the years. We enjoy having them as part of our community, and Ron has been an important part of that. Whereas Ron Kagan was raised in Boston, Massachusetts, educated at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where he studied zoology, stopping 1 year short of his degree to go to Israel and fight in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. And whereas upon his arrival, without having had the opportunity to finish his degree, Ron was tasked with taking care of the animals at the Tisch Family Zoological Garden. And whereas after several months, Ron returned to Amherst and completed his undergraduate degree in zoology, after which he returned to Israel and served 18 months on active duty and an additional 8 years as a reservist. Whereas Ron spent several years in Israel earning a master's degree in zoology at the University of Jerusalem, where he also married and raised 2 children, finally returning to Dallas, Texas to become the curator of the Dallas Zoo, eventually making his way to take over at the helm of the Detroit Zoo in 1992. And whereas Ron has led the development of numerous exhibits, including the Arctic Ring of Life, Ford Education Center, National Amphibian Conservation Center, Wildlife Interpretive Gallery, Cotton Family Wolf Wilderness, Mardigan River Otter Habitat, Polk Penguin Conservation Center, the Holtzman Wildlife Foundation Red Panda Forest, Australian Outback Adventure, Ruth Roby Glancy Animal Health Complex, and the Devereaux Tiger Forest, and many other attractions. And whereas under Ron's leadership, the Detroit Zoological Society established the Center for Zoo and Aquarium Animal Welfare and Ethics to advance exotic animal welfare, science, and policy. And whereas after 28 years as the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Detroit Zoological Society, Ron has announced his retirement. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Ron Kagan be recognized and hereby honored as a leader and visionary, and that our entire region and environment will forever be changed by his commitment to the Detroit Zoo, one of Southeast Michigan's most prized attractions. And be it further resolved that the Huntington Woods City Commission, on behalf of all our residents, express our sincerest appreciation to Ron Kagan for all his hard work improving the Detroit Zoo and wish him and his family well in their future endeavors. Proclaimed by resolution of the City Commission, October 19th, 2021, and signed by the mayor. So unfortunately, Ron couldn't be with us this evening, but we will forward that on to him. Our second proclamation is a proclamation recognizing the contributions of Gordon G. Glitten. Whereas Gordon Glitten was born in New York and raised in Englewood, New Jersey, he became a student and graduate from Union College, Schenectady, New York in 1978 with a degree in civil engineering. And whereas Gordon began his engineering career with Turner Construction in Columbus, Ohio, eventually transferring to their Detroit office in 1985, and in turn settling in Huntington Woods, and became involved with the community efforts and concerns. And whereas Gordon left the construction field and opened his own home inspection service, Inland Lakes Home Inspection Service, and whereas Gordon used his talents and expertise to further his commitment to the City of Huntington Woods by seeking and obtaining appointment to the Planning Commission, serving 3 terms, including several years as the chairman. Whereas Gordon's passion for public service led him to further serve the city by seeking and obtaining appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals during his off years from the Planning Commission, having served both as Planning Commission liaison and a regular ZBA member. Whereas Gordon's efforts on our boards and committees, including the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals, showed exemplary care, detail, orientation, and integrity. And whereas Gordon did depart this life on October 6th of this year after a prolonged illness, now therefore be it proclaimed that Gordon Glitten be recognized and hereby honored as a leader whose contributions to the City of Huntington Woods will forever be appreciated by residents, staff, and City Commission alike. Be it further proclaimed that the Huntington Woods City Commission, on behalf of all our residents, express our sincerest appreciation for Gordon Glitten's efforts and commitment to the city, and wish to express sincere condolences to his family and friends. Proclaimed by resolution of the City Commission, October 19th, 2021, and signed by the mayor. There will be a wake in Gordon's honor this Friday, which I will be attending, and I'll pass this, read this proclamation again at that event. But Gordon was always willing and able to help the city out whenever we needed him to. Was always, when you saw him in the community, met you with a smile and a friendly hello. So he will be very much missed.
And Mr. Mayor, if I might just add, having served with Gordon Glitten on both ZBA and on planning, nobody was ever more prepared to deal with individual projects, whatever they were, and nobody was more cordial and polite to the residents and his colleagues on both of those boards. And sometimes, you know, people don't realize how much time and effort some of the people who volunteer put in. And I'll tell you, you always knew with Gordon, he knew what he was talking about. He had been to the site, he'd reviewed the plans, he was fully versed, and I mean, that's very important, you know, obviously for the city as a whole, but also for the resident that has a piece of property or a house where there's an issue, wants to be sure they're getting a fair shake. So he was just an outstanding individual. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I also had the privilege of serving with Mr. Glidden for many years prior to my election to the City Commission, and I echo everything that my colleague Commissioner Olsman said.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Commission. Please come forward to the microphone and once again, take off your mask so that everyone can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Let me just share one thing with you.
Thank you.
So, appreciate the time. Mark was kind enough to forward me the evaluation that was done by the Planning Committee of the 2014-2015 plan. I had a couple of questions and suggestions that I wanted to follow up on. What I provided you with is the document that includes the first page of that 7-page evaluation. And as you look at it, you're of course struck by how many were not accomplished. You're also struck by the fact that many of these statements or goals are fairly vague and unmeasurable, which is always a problem for serious planning. I was particularly puzzled by the second one down, which I've indicated in red, that says Huntington Woods will continue to have city services that are second to none. Any idea what second to none means operationally? Or now the actual plan from 2014-15 actually frames that somewhat differently and actually in a way that's operational and actually makes sense. And then of course, maintain the city's stock of smaller single detached homes. All I see in the city are small homes being enlarged and extended in size and so forth. So I'm not sure what that means or how that was ever operationalized or what people were thinking about. So the key issue, I guess, here is that when you look at this document and you compare it on the next page to the actual plan itself from 2014, 2015, and particularly when you look at the implementation section of that plan, that plan actually lays out specific goals and objectives. The evaluation document doesn't follow that at all. There's no clear indication of what are goals, what are objectives, and so forth. So it's a fairly limited evaluation of the plan, and it is puzzling why you wouldn't simply use the document provided by the plan itself to evaluate what was done or what was not done. So one is a little disappointed with the evaluation. And then, as I would point out to you on the introduction to the implementation, there are some suggestions, and I assume there was agreement, that in fact, that the city would in fact review this plan on an annual basis, and a number of very practical, useful suggestions, which apparently were not followed in the 6 years since this plan was developed. What I've also included here, and I've just attached a couple of the pages, I think you can sort of see the disconnect between the evaluation and the actual plan. You can sort of see that the plan implementation recommendations, while very practical and appropriate, don't seem to have been followed in any way. And then on the very last page, I just provided, what every planner would agree are the basic elements of any good plan. So you have to have measurable goals. We have very few measurable goals. You have to be clear about what the priorities are. You can't do everything in the first year, limited resources, so of course you have to set priorities. You have to have strategies or tactics for how you're going to accomplish those goals. What are your strategies? What are your objectives going to be? Obviously you need deadlines. When are things going to be done by? And you certainly need assignments. So who's going to be responsible for implementing the changes? Who will be held accountable, and so forth. And obviously every good plan has metrics so that you can measure what you're doing, and if you don't have the metrics, you can't really evaluate how you're doing. And I would say that against these sort of basic elements of good planning, we as a city have not done very well. We have not done a very good job. In fact, if one of my students turned this in, they would probably flunk the course. I then ask you to consider 5 questions here. First of all, will the new master plan update have measurable goals? Are you committed to that as good best practice? Second question, again, pretty straightforward. Will the master plan, the implementation part of that, have SMART objectives, which everybody understands to mean that your objectives should be specific, should be measurable, should be assignable, should be realistic, should be time-related, and so forth. Again, all of this is sort of common sense stuff. Will the plan be evaluated and updated on an annual basis? Many cities do this routinely. We apparently have never done that. And will the evaluation and update be shared with the public? And then finally, will the city utilize one of its best resources, its standing committees, to help in the development and implementation of these plans? So I am amazed that in terms of environmental sustainability, that the Sustainability Committee was not involved in the development of this plan. Hopefully they will be involved in the implementation of the plan. It seems like an incredible waste of human resources in a city that clearly has limited resources. So my question would be, are these questions that are reasonable? Are these things that you would be willing to commit to as a commission? You may need to discuss that at some point, but I would hope at some point that I and others could get an answer to those 5 questions. And my hope, of course, would be that those would be affirmative. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes,
I have one
thank
final question. So I mentioned the fact that our standing committees of the city, and particularly the Sustainability Committee, from my point of view, are wonderful resources for the city. They have not been utilized. They have not met for a long time. And Mayor Paul, I believe you're the liaison to that committee, correct? Is that correct?
You're talking about the Environmental Advisory Committee?
Yeah.
Yes,
Have you been to any meetings?
I have, yes.
Which ones? They're not reflected in the minutes.
You know what, I'm going to thank you for your comments.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to thank you for your comments unless you have any others.
Sure, could you just answer that question? It's a very simple question.
No, well, this
Have
is-
you been
this
to
is an
any
opportunity for the
environmental
public-
committees?
This
It's
is an
a
opportunity for the
simple
public to make
question.
comments, not
You
to
don't- you
question
cannot
the city
answer that, or
commission.
you're too embarrassed?
Do you have any other comments, sir?
I just want a simple answer to a simple question, and I'm done.
All right, then,
And are you willing to answer that simple question?
moving on, is there any other public participation?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
People at least who know quite a bit about planning. Let this go on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Downey. I live at 13160 Kingston. My husband Brian and our 2 children, ages 4 and 8, live at the corner of Berkeley and Kingston, adjacent to Vale Jones Park. For reference, we initially made a formal complaint with the city regarding Vale Jones Park at a Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting in 2018. From 2018 to present day, the issues we originally brought forth have continued and no permanent solutions have been in place to rectify any problem we've brought to light, despite continuing communication with City Commission, Parks and Rec, the former city manager, and on public forums such as Nextdoor and Facebook. I would like to reiterate our main issues are noise pollution, language, littering, loitering, trespassing, and parking. Each of you received an email from me last year outlining the exact issues that we've experienced living next to the skate park, so I don't want to waste any of my 3 minutes rehashing my family's concerns. But what I will say, however, is despite multiple attempts to rectify any or all of these issues, nothing permanent has been put into place to circumvent the problems we've experienced, and they continue to this day. Over 3 years and counting is too long to wait for a city to take action on a significant problem impacting the use and enjoyment of a tax-paying resident's private property. On September 28th, a Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting was conducted at the Rec Center. The topic of Vale Jones was item B on the agenda. I had a prepared statement to read to address the board regarding our ongoing concerns about the park. In preparation for this meeting, I decided to watch all of the available recorded meetings from the last year on the city's YouTube page. The majority of meetings included discussion of Vale Jones Park. In these meetings, our family was mentioned as that one family raising concerns about the park. We were then called things like opportunistic, overreaching, and were accused of having buyer's remorse for purchasing a home near a park, along with other condescending and pejorative comments. We believe the advisory board needs to be cognizant, impartial, and mindful of a taxpaying citizen's concerns regarding any city park and not demean or question the validity of the concern. As I mentioned, I had a statement prepared to read at the September 28th meeting, but was not permitted to read it, despite a discussion of Vale Jones being on the agenda, and the board knowing ahead of time we had a statement to share. Just as our concerns regarding Vale Jones have been neglected and unresolved since 2018, our efforts were silenced yet again, as we were unfairly denied our chance to speak. This is now a dual-fold issue. First being that the concerns we brought up regarding Vale Jones Park still continue to this day and no permanent solutions have been put in place to rectify them. And secondly, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, who are supposed to represent the best interests of taxpaying citizens of Huntington Woods, need to understand the importance of their decorum and not demean or invalidate the concerns of those they represent. In addition, if a member has some kind of vested interest in a park, and is unable to be impartial, or they are unable to follow the rules and bylaws of the board, they need to step down from their position. I will be sending each of you another email this week to elaborate on the content of my statement, as well as a detailed explanation of what transpired in the September 28th Parks and Rec Board meeting, as well as our continuing concerns with Vale Jones Park. Like I said, it's been over 3 years, and not a single permanent solution has been put in place. The time to act on this issue is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, with that, public participation is closed, and we'll move on to the regular items of business. Our first item of business is a matter of consideration of accepting the memorandum of understanding between the City of Huntington Woods and Verigy. City Manager Wallenweber, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. This has come up previously, and it was suggested by the Commission. Actually, Commissioner Elder was very helpful in suggesting that we seek other companies. So we put a request for qualifications together, send it out, advertise it on the mitten, as indicated in the cover sheet, and I apologize, I did this Friday from home, so there were a couple of typos in here that I didn't catch early enough to correct before I sent it to Heidi to put in the packet. 511 companies were notified by the mitten. 16 downloaded our request for qualifications. We received 2 proposals, one from Verigy and one from a mechanical firm in Ohio, Brewer Garrett. After looking at both of those, I ranked them based on the scoring we included in the RFQ, and I rated B&G at 84 and Verigy at 92 for a number of reasons. Verigy is a local office. They just opened in Royal Oak, and several of their top staff previously worked with Honeywell and were responsible for numerous successful projects in Michigan. I was involved in 2 and possibly 3 in St. Clair Shores. It goes back so long ago I don't remember. And I do know the projects, and then 1 in Grosse Pointe Shores that was very successful. They also listed in their proposal their plan to look for various grants and utility rebates to further cut our expenses. It's my recommendation that the Commission authorize the initial memorandum. This would allow Verigy to proceed with a complete review of all of our city facilities. And at that point, when they present more information after reviewing this, this will come back to the City Commission to determine whether or not there's a cost savings for the specific facilities involved, and the Commission and staff at the time can add or delete certain portions if that's necessary. I think this is of value. Tim and I have discussed this. Hank would be the liaison along with Tim for them and working with each of the building directors. I think they're, based on their work, both in in Grosse Pointe Shores and in St. Clair Shores, that there's potential savings in this building, the library, and the pool primarily. There are some things that we're going to have to address budget-wise in the environment and air quality in City Hall, and some things in the basement that need to be addressed, but Tim and I are still looking at those issues. But I think this makes sense to do. I think it was a good suggestion. I always want everything yesterday, but I think it was a good suggestion to go out for qualifications here. I'm only sorry that more people didn't take the time. I did study both. And the group from Ohio, their experience is primarily in Ohio, and the only project underway successfully in Michigan has been East Detroit Schools, and I don't think they changed their name to East Point, but I could be wrong. And I just felt that the other firm, in rating them on the scale that was included, and I don't think we include that in the proposal to the Commission this evening, that I think Verigy did a better job in their proposal. I think there's plenty of flexibility down the road for the Commission to add or delete or decide that we might fund projects one way rather than look for just the energy saving to cover them. So it's our recommendation that the Commission authorize the initial memorandum of understanding and authorize Tim and I to sign as outlined. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Do we have a motion? First of all?
Second.
Okay, is there any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the commission?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mark, thank you for posting this on the Mitten.
Oh, thank you.
For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a statewide system made transparent, allows for every vendor that's registered in the system to offer their proposal. Appreciate that transparency. The question, I would just want some clarification. This memo just means that we are going to allow them to do the study.
Yes.
We are not spending money, and they're going to identify the programs that we should do at the dates outlined here. My request is to continue to push them on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have reviewed the information that the company sent us. They are in the beginning stages of their journey. It's extremely important to me that if there are projects to be taken on, that we are looking very carefully and working with them, and I really want you to continue to push them on that.
Well understood, and that's part of the plan.
Thank you.
And no, thanks for your suggestion that we do this, because we did get a second vendor, and comparing the two proposals was of value, especially, and I always like that when we do requests for qualifications, we kind of indicate a scoring way that we're going to do it. And while it's still subjective, I felt that the Verigy proposal was more addressed some of the things here. And as I said, there are some things we may have to look at financing or doing specifically ourselves, such as the air quality at City Hall and some other things. But I'm intrigued with and know firsthand some of the things that they've done at the Grosse Pointe Shores pool, and some of the things that they did combining the library and City Hall for heating and cooling, but cooling primarily in St. Clair Shores. So, and your comments are well noted, and we will be pushing them.
Yes, and identifying potential women-owned, minority-owned, veterans, disabled-owned businesses would be in the future as a potential next step.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Commissioner Jakes?
Yeah, I was pleased with the concepts that are in the proposal. I was also pleased that the finance searching was added with the Build Back Better kinds of proposals, whether it's $2 trillion or $3.5 trillion. I'd love to get some of that to deal with our HVAC. I'd like to request, if possible, if one additional component could be added, and that was evaluating the lower level of the recreation center so we could use it, and the cost of adding an elevator as well. We've got a very, very large building. I think for a long time we have not used the lower level. Some people say they would like exercise equipment. We indicate that there is no available space now, but there is space at the lower level. And I think when Mark was last city manager, it was being used.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 2 is a matter of consideration to approve the request for an AFG grant award for Department of Public Safety equipment and a budget amendment.
Yes, this is a grant that Andrew, on behalf of the city, applied for actually 2 or 3 times already, and finally we got funded this year. One of the things, I'm sorry someone from the state is not here, but these are the grants for public safety departments are usually discounted, unfortunately, and it's always been one of my issues, and I'll perhaps get in contact with our state legislature legislator to talk to her about this, but they give a discount to public safety departments and don't rate them as highly as they do separate police and fire department. And part of that is because the evaluation committees are typically former fire chiefs. But in any case, we were successful this time as part of a consortium bid to replace all our breathing apparatus. And there was some supplemental information that, or supplemental material that we wanted to make sure this works for all of the departments, and we have interchangeable breathing apparatus. I'll just give you an example. In the Grosse Pointes, 3 of the communities out of the 5 have the same breathing apparatus. One got a separate grant, went out, and got something completely different. So when he shows up, that department shows up for a mutual aid, we can't refill their bottles, or we couldn't at that point. That's the kind of thing that this grant addresses, and I think our share, we're getting about just over 77,000, and the city match to this is 21,000 and change. To do this, Tim has outlined in the information where we will be adjusting our budget as well. So it's, again, our recommendation to proceed with this. It's, you know, anytime we can take advantage of a grant, even if there's matching requirements, this is something that we'd have to do at our own expense in a couple of years. And I think Tim pointed out in his memo, this is almost $100,000 that we would have to allocate without this grant money being available to us.
And
Thank you.
implementation is in 2022, so this came at perfect timing.
Yes.
Can we get a motion to authorize participation in the assistance to the firefighters grant program
So
to
moved.
accept $77,637.91 with a local match of $21,178.73?
So move.
Second.
Any public comment? Okay, comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3 is a matter of consideration to enter into a purchase agreement with Signature Ford of Owasso for the purchase of a 2021 Ford F-150 police responder in the amount of $55,687, utilizing the state of Michigan deal bid. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is a matter of considering approval the proposed fees for the clerk, building and public safety, and the proposed recreation fees to be set by the Recreation Advisory Board for review.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose that this be postponed till the next meeting. It indicates that the survey identified what fees other communities are charging, as well as comparison of how our fees align with other communities. Unless I got a faulty mailing, there is nothing in here in the way of comparative detail. What they do is they show from 2014 or 2016 what our previous fees were. July 2016. There is nothing that shows in a comparative form even our own pricing. I would have had to sit down for hours to compile that. But there's no comparison with any other city in what we were supplied.
If you didn't get the entire report, we'll be happy to forward that, and we certainly apologize that that was not included, because I have the complete report, and it compares, just as an example, community survey were Berkeley, Beverly Hills, Birmingham, Ferndale, Oak Park, and Pleasant Ridge, all nearby communities. And I have all the detailed information, but we'll make sure that the entire study.
Yeah, I have all the comparative information. It's a giant Excel spreadsheet that's not printable, but I'm more than happy to send an electronic version and put it on the
That's
website
fine.
and everything.
No. But I'd like to request that this be postponed for a month until we can read it.
I received the comparison.
I have something, it's called the current fees for comparison, but I don't have anything that shows multiple.
Yeah, our previous
communities.
fees are in here, but the other cities' current fees is not in the packet because it was not in a printable version.
Is there anything time-sensitive in this?
We were hoping to roll out building department fees by early November, but that could be postponed.
Is it prejudicial to us to wait, or is it, I mean, the question is, do you need this approval now?
We had planned on having it. We wanted to go out live with online building permits in November, so this would push us back.
So
It would delay us.
we could give Commissioner Jenks what he needs, but in the meantime, I'm going to move that we approve the proposal as stated.
I'll second it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the staff.
Let me just quickly ask if there's any public comment. Seeing
Sorry.
none, okay.
I assumed there were none. So Tim, in the data on the municipalities, I assume it supports what you're recommending, right?
It does, yes.
Logically. Could you walk us through maybe the highlights of it?
Yeah, so the consultant went through all the different cities in the area, and they all have different fees, they offer different services, so trying to find, we may charge one fee that only one of the other cities charges, or another city may charge a fee that we're not currently charged that we want to start charging to kind of get more revenue. So it went through and identifying all the fees, comparing them, seeing if we're in line or out of line. If we were out of line with the other cities, we adjusted our fee to put us in line. So it's really a two-prong approach, the interviewing of the staff, coming up with our cost to provide these services, which we came up with our proposed fee, then comparing that to the other cities to see if our proposed fee was in line or not. If it was not in line with the other cities, we would adjust it, so we may not necessarily recoup our costs, but want to be in line with everybody else.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, I am not a subject matter expert of municipal fees and programs like our wonderful staff here at the Parks and Rec and Library and Tim in Finance Department. I trust that you as professionals have a logical reasoning of coming up with this executive summary for us, and appreciate that I don't have to sit through pages and pages of data. That is your job. And so the reason why I asked for that is because we don't have the data, but I would like to understand how you arrived at these conclusions, and the answer that you've given me tonight, I think, suffices for me. So I would be comfortable with moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure, too, I heard this correctly, and that is, we're not basing this solely on comparing ourselves to what other people are charging. I mean, the goal is that we're recouping the cost of providing, whatever the service is. Like I noticed as an example, this like return check fee, if the resident were to write a bad check. I mean, if our bank charges us $30, then we pass that $30 fee on to the resident. I don't care if Pleasant Ridge's bank charges $40 or Berkeley's bank charges $25. I'm interested in recouping the cost of our return check fee, from the bank, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that this wasn't wholly, are we in line, out of line? I have no issue with that, but I want to make sure that this was looked at as a cost recovery, not a profit thing, or not a, hey, we can charge more for this because other folks are charging more for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. As part of their study, and James Vitrano was involved in this along with his associate, we have to be able to demonstrate, if challenged, that our fees are set to recover our actual costs of involvement here. And I'm sorry that we couldn't send the whole spreadsheet, but we can send you that each electronically. And I think, and again, it's up to the commission, but Approval this evening allows us to go implementation. One of the highlights, Tim may have mentioned this in his report, with, if not, I'm going to mention it now. With our new person doing this, we're already steps ahead, and our plan is in the next month or so to roll out online permitting so that businesses, contractors that we deal with on a regular basis will be able to do this online. And I want to thank Jane in the permitting department, because not only did she bring over from Madison Heights great ideas, she's very pleasant to the public, thanks people for coming in. I hear her talk every day, and we already have another positive person, not that we don't have positive people at City Hall, but she's certainly added to the rest of the staff in terms of a positive outlook to serve not just residents, but the businesses that come in on behalf of residents. So we can send that electronically, but approval this evening will allow us to proceed timely with what we hope will be making it easier for the contractors as well as homeowners to do business with the city.
Okay. Any other, Commissioner Jenks?
Yeah. Did prices go down or did prices go up? I mean, if they went down, I have no city person should be complaining, but if they went up, I should be able to at least be partially accountable.
So all the fees would have different, some went up, some went down. The building percentage for building permits went down slightly to 1.8% from, I believe it was 1.9, because the building is very specific. You can't collect any more money than building department expenses. But with the rec, that's why we're recommending the rec stuff go back to the rec board first, because that's much more of the comparison was in that rec stuff. And the cost, that was the real driving force for this study, was the rec coming out of the budget advisory committee. So that's where a lot of those comparisons were, in that real trying to get that, recoup the cost of the rec center. The building was added on separately after that.
Did the rec board see the changes and approve them?
They have not yet. Okay. So the rec fees will come back at a later date for approval after the rec board advises on them.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries. Item number 5, do we have a motion to set a public hearing on November 16th, 2021 for the 2022 CDBG program year?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any public comment? Any comments from the commission?
Just a question.
Commissioner Jenks?
Tim, how much do you expect? $16,000?
What is this? That's approximately right, yeah. No more money than we normally get, 16 to 18, right?
13, 15. Yeah. Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is a matter of new appointments of residents to the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. We have a new committee that's forming. It is forming with 5 people initially. We would like to start this committee off, have them meet as they develop how they're going to do their job, when they're going to meet, what time, and how involved they're going to get in certain studies and whatnot. We would like to make it known to them that there are more people that did apply, and if they feel the need to have more people to participate, they can come back to us and ask, and we can certainly look at enlarging the committee. But we initially founded the committee with 5 members. We did interviews over the course of the last 3 months, I think it has gone on. What I did is ask each of there's 5 members on the commission, there's 5 members we're appointing, so I asked each of the commission members to give me their number 1 pick. So we have 5 recommended appointees. If we could get a motion to appoint Katie Ballou, Daniel Sebastian Dina, Maria Lalonde, Kia Eason, and Betsy Kelman.
So move.
Second. And are we designated, Mr. Mayor, are we designated Brandon Marr as a student rep, a non-voting liaison?
We are, and I'll explain that Brandon is a young man who just graduated from Berkeley High School and is now attending Purdue University.
I think so, yeah.
So by our charter, he is not allowed to serve on the committee because he's not living locally, but he has a lot of great thoughts. He's willing to participate in the group, so we are asking the committee to make it accessible for him to join their meetings and to get his input. Maybe during the summer months when he's back at home, he can actually participate as well. He can't be a voting member, but he can participate, and we would love to have his participation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to comment on the quality of the applicants that we got. This was a really difficult decision because we are only starting with 5 spots, and everyone that applied was just amazing, and I think they would have contributed in their very, differently and in their own ways, and so there are other committees that we are always seeking volunteers for, so we'll certainly keep them in mind, but I just wanted to say thank you to all of the individuals that applied for this committee.
Commissioner Jenks?
Yes, I do hope that the committee itself might look at the extra people that were not appointed and come back to us and request a larger committee. This is a major problem in America. It is a major problem in our city. And the interesting thing on the people that applied is they each brought a different skill to the table.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our city manager's report.
Have a couple pages of notes. As the gentleman who was here earlier mentioned about the master plan process, I did send him information, talk to our consultant. I'll certainly forward his comments. He was kind enough to give them to me in advance to our consultant, so maybe we can get his questions answered. And I'll send him the answer as well as to the City Commission. But note that one of the points from last time that he made was that he wasn't sure that the Planning Commission, the City Commission, did review the 14 and 15 master plan to determine, and there was 7 or 8 pages that I forwarded to him from our consultants, and I'll forward the other information as well. I wanted to mention Tim has re-advertised for the open finance position. It's a deputy finance director position, and we're still looking for someone. We've had a few more candidates look at it, and so Tim and Heidi and I will help him with interviews once we can look at this, because it's important. I think as Tim is our finance director in a critical position with the audit partially started, et cetera, that we free him up from day-to-day stuff to look at big picture issues. And I'm sure he will smile more when we have a quality candidate as well. There was a series of meetings that I went to. The mayor and I attended the mayor-manager's meeting over in Novi, and we had a presentation from the president of DTE Electric, the electric side, President Trevor Lawler. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you were able to talk to him, and you might comment, and then I'll make some more about some of the things he told us, but I think you're able to arrange his coming to visit.
Yeah, I did talk with Mr. Lauer following his presentation, and he did agree to come and meet with the City Commission at one of our future commission meetings very soon. He had some very insightful comments about DTE and the position they're in right now, and I think it would be very interesting to have him here. I won't steal from his presentation, but hopefully we'll see him in the next month or two at the latest, but I am working on that.
And I want to say, too, that I was able to participate in a meeting that Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter set up, and I thought our meeting with the president was more revealing, and I, along with some others, asked questions, but one of the things that I was sitting next to Jennifer Whitaker, who is our rep on this side, and I've known her for a period of time. She owes me a call back about her street lighting stuff, but you got to give a plug. They had, and really one of the things the public should understand, he'll explain this better than I, but their process when they come out is to restore power, and then, I forgot it, the actual term is restore before repair. And if they can get more people on, they'll do that, and they make notes to what they have to do to come back later to do it. And I know Commissioner Rozelle was the unfortunate benefit of a tree coming down with a couple of his other neighbors, along with others in Kingston, but he had a really good presentation, pulled no punches, and answered all questions. So if he's able to come, as the mayor had tentatively arranged, we'll know when, post that on the site too, but I think it will be helpful. Then another meeting last week, both Commissioner Jenks and I attended the SEMCOG meeting. It was really great for me because it was held at the Eleanor Etzel Ford House. And when I was in Grosse Pointe Shores, we worked out all the arrangements for their new buildings, one of which is a gold certified LEED platinum LEED building, and their office is a platinum building. And you can't tell it, you can't see the buildings from the Ford House itself, and it just goes to show what selling one painting worth over $100 million to someone in the Middle East can help do. But anyway, SEMCOG had great meetings. I enjoyed the sessions that I went to, and I was really pleased to see that the Taubman Company is going to sponsor again a couple of elected officials to attend the Harvard Kennedy program. And I was fortunate enough to go to that program many years ago, and it certainly was one of the most exciting educational experience I ever participated in. And one of the people on the panel is an old friend from, again, the other side of Woodward. Greg Johnson was the number 2 or 3 person at MDOT. He was a panelist. He's someone that I've known over the years, and was, I hate to say it, my inside person when I didn't get what I wanted in terms of tip money or something. I could call Greg because he was high enough up and worked directly for the commission, the board. And to see him appointed by the governor is really a great, because he's an operational person. And Hank and I have already talked to him by phone. We're talking to him and a person he assigned about our MDOT strip on Woodward, which needs a lot of help. So he's going to be back. He's building a bridge in Portland, Oregon, and as part of his consulting services. And so he'll be back in December, and we will meet with him again. One other meeting that I met with the Oak Park manager, Eric Tungate. We talked about a series of items, but including sharing space, equipment, and possibly some staff sharing as well. Eric's an old friend too, and we're also talking, Tim and I have spent some time evaluating this, but Madison Heights, Royal Oak, Hazel Park, Ferndale, and Oak Park share in 2 doctors' facilities where all business from the city goes to those facilities. and we are interested in getting pricing from them. It's something, I don't know if it came up previously, but there are significant savings when we have to send someone for either a workers' comp injury but primarily for pre-employment physicals, or the summer kids that we have to have tests done and things like that. And just as an example, Blue Cross will reimburse a vendor like $98 for a blood test that's worth about $11. So our participation in that could result in some significant savings. So Tim and I will be visiting with some of our neighboring communities when they have an open house and give us some other numbers. But that's something we'll bring back to the commission, and I think it's going to be of real value. Finally, I sat through part of our CALIA recertification process. We are one of 900 national members of that association where they have reviewed our policies, procedures for our public safety department. And I know the City Commission, Steve Harriman and Alex Alley, who was the manager at the time, thought it was important that we be leaders in that area and responsible in terms of having outside folks look at our processes, our procedures, the things that go on in the department, etc. There was a resident that the commission is familiar with who presented his report and indicated he didn't think we did so well. But I wanted to rebut some of his comments, and Ben, in my experience, in all the communities I work with, which were like 7 or 8, if I have to think about them and count them, I would place both our director and our department in the top 1 or 2 for our response to citizens and our ability to change what procedures need to be changed in order to make sure we're doing things the right way on behalf of our residents and to those that are driving through, etc. So I was glad to be able to participate in that process as well, and we'll see what happens. And I think we've been recertified 3 or 4 previous times.
We started in 2006.
Okay. Well, it's a great program. I also want to indicate, you saw a couple of, and I mentioned it earlier, I am not as well organized as Amy has been over the years, and if you see a typo, you call me because it's my fault usually for trying to do it too quickly. I also want to say that, you know, the staff here that I've met and worked with, Heidi, Amy, Hank, the people at City Hall, Jane, as I mentioned earlier, just have been so wonderful and so helpful. And, you know, our most important thing, as I said earlier, is to keep Tim concentrating on the important items and not having to print bills or do payroll himself. So if anybody knows of somebody that's looking for a job, he'd be a great person to work with, and as are the rest of the people at City Hall. And I say that too about our department heads, our library, the Parks and Rec people here. I've not had as much a chance to spend time here, but Rocco has the right attitude in terms of, and we have one other upcoming meeting later this week with the engineers to talk about what went right this year, what went wrong, what we plan for next year, and we'll be shortly sharing as part of the budget process, you know, what's next up on the streets, because I know each of you, like me, have gotten questions about, okay, when's my street come up? And, you know, we've done PACER ratings for all of those, so we'll get that information out to people. And 2 final things, you know, it's neat, and I know I forwarded this to the commission, but I want to brag that, again, and this is a public safety issue, Huntington Woods was listed as one of the safest small towns in America, again, and that's a function of not only having great residents, but a great public safety department that responds and makes sure if you're doing the wrong thing here, you are going to get caught and get prosecuted. And finally, And I know I probably am, I don't know, Joe doesn't get, as commissioner, gets a chance to say this, but we want to, on behalf of the city, our city clerk, Heidi, and everybody in Oakland County, remind people to vote on November 2nd. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the city manager? All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the regular city commission meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Who is the fifth person there? Got 1, 2, 3. Dan? No, I got her. 1, 2.